friends. So as I may have mentioned, I had a birthday a few days ago, and one of the family traditions on my birthday is to talk about the past year, talk about sort of where we are in life, and look ahead to the future in general, and to the upcoming year. And something that came up for me, it actually sort of emerged in my mind before my birthday reflection, but then it also kind of showed up powerfully as I was being asked to give this talk, as I am every year. And what showed up was a bit of a memory or an impression of my young life. And my young life was spent, I was born on the East Coast, and then at age 4, my family moved to Germany, at the time West Germany. And then shortly after the wall fell, after the Berlin Wall fell, and after the country was reunified, we moved back to the States. And that chapter, that 10-year period in my life between age 4 and 14, I always remember it as a kind of magical period. It was a time when I think both my parents were fully in their power place. They were just both, each individually and together, living their best lives. And so the family energy just felt magical. It felt like everything was an adventure. We had these incredible friends and incredible experiences. And living in Europe, you can be plunged from one culture to the next very, very quickly. Different language, different everything. From, without you drive an hour and you're in a different country, depending on where you are, obviously. So there was this real vibrancy to how life felt at that age. And it's not that life after that got bad, but we came back to the States and there was a fair amount of culture shock, and I think really some pretty heavy grieving for the life we knew. And at the time, for me, pretty much the only life I'd known. I mean, I was a 4-year-old. I was younger than Annalise when we moved over there. So, and my brother was 2 years younger than that. So subsequent chapters of our life have also been incredibly beautiful. Of course, I was in adolescence at that point, so I began to sort of make my own individual way more. But there really is a kind of aura of magic around that period of time. And I think, and what showed up for me on this, as I was reflecting on it on my birthday, was that, a period of time like that, for me, because I was so young, and because it constituted a sizable chunk of my childhood, it feels like an infinitely vast time. It feels like a huge amount of time that we spent overseas. And part of that is because I learned that language, and all my friends came from that culture, and I did go to an international school and have American friends too, but I really became a conscious human being over there in that culture, in that place. And so I think back on it, and it just feels like the whole of childhood. There's something vast about it, which, looking at it now, it feels like such a finite amount of time. 10 years, that's longer than I've been in New Mexico. I moved back from Europe over 10 years ago. It'll be 12 years this Christmas. And that, while this also feels like a significant chapter in my life, it feels like a far smaller one. And so then I think about, okay, I have a child right now who's just 6 months older, a few months older than I was when we made this move. And so that's her perception of time is similar to the way mine was back then. Her perception of time is going to be everything that happens. There's an expansiveness to the amount of time and to the way that time feels to her right now. And it makes me conscious of how the nature of how things feel to her right now, the magic that Katie and I create, the adventurousness with which we live, the joy we find in our particular lives, the joy we find in being with each other, the decisions we make that feel enthusiastic and playful and expansive. That stuff is what she's living. That's what she's getting. And there's just a kind of just a real gratitude and a real sense of possibility. Makes me want to create magic. And I think that I do that in some ways in my life. There is magic in our life, and there are ways in which I think Katie and I can both each look at our lives individually and look at our life together and go, wow, look at some of these truly unique and kind of very unconventional and very playful and spirited choices we've made. Here, look at where we've gone. But I feel like we can't do too much of that. I'm just getting this, having had this reflection recently, just makes me want to be even more committed to that, be even more committed to creating magic. Because, first of all, who wouldn't want to live like that, right? Why would we not want to have that be your life? Why would you want to choose something else? Second of all, there's a little being for whom this is shaping the nature of the world. The nature of the world can be magical and spirited and playful and full of endless possibility. And that's a gift that we, can give. And it just brings me joy to think of life that way. It's easy to think about, especially when you're wrestling with issues, when you have problems and stuff that's taking time and attention, but it feels like, oh, we have this issue and we don't know how we're going to solve it. There can be a weightiness to it. And even if that doesn't go away, or even if it requires the work that it requires, that doesn't mean that there can't be this effervescent magic as well. Because whose life doesn't have some of that? whose life doesn't have some of that darkness and that weightiness, the heaviness? You know, we get our portion of that to carry. We receive our karma, and we have to deal with it. We have to process it, let it go, disidentify from it. But we always have the option to create magic, no matter where we are in our karma. So yeah, that's what showed up for me as I had a day or two to reflect on this transition, this birthday, and moving into the next phase of life. So, thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.